Hey there, are you ready to take the stage and your business to the next level? Because the doors to my in-demand signature speech program are officially open. Join now and you will get instant access to the program so you can start crafting your 3Cs presentation, a talk that is captivating, compelling, and most importantly, converting. Imagine an audience that's raving about you, remembering you, and referring you long after you step off the stage. That is the power of a signature speech. And this program will help you create one that you are proud to deliver. If you want a sneak peek at what's inside the program, check out the show notes for a past episode where I pulled back the curtain and gave you a behind the scenes look. Your audience is waiting. Let's make your story the one that they will never forget. I'll see you inside. What if one talk could shift everything in your business, from clarity, your confidence, and your client flow? Today, you're going to hear from someone who's been through that transformation. Because on this episode, I'm pulling back the curtain and handing over the mic to one of my students from my in-demand signature speech program. This isn't a highlight reel or some glossy testimonial. It's a real conversation. The behind the scenes of what it's like to go from I don't know what to say or where to start. Two, I have a powerful signature talk that I can confidently use to grow my business. If you've ever wondered what it's like to be inside in-demand signature speech, well, you're about to find out. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure as always, Laurie-Ann.
Would you share with people what you do, what you speak about, all that good stuff?
Absolutely. For the last 8 years or so, I've been working as a grief mentor. I work with grieving mothers because that is a world that I'm unfortunately familiar with. And the spinoff from that has been speaking. As you can imagine, grief is one of those unique things that there's not a lot of speakers out there with personal experience. So I've been speaking on that topic, but ironically, I slammed that door shut about a year ago, just living in this place of complete overwhelm. I started to really take a good hard look at my timetable and my mental health and all of those things, and actually just thought, gosh, maybe it's time just to not speak anymore. But lo and behold, somebody came knocking on the door this spring, so I have reopened that door, and it's been exciting.
Wonderful. And I remember that story, how they like knocked on your door and like, hey, and you were like, fine.
Well, it wasn't even like that. I actually set myself up hoping that they would slam the door closed again. So
Did you?
I did. I looked at it and I thought, yeah, this is a perfect fit. I mean, it was a funeral symposium, right? These are the folks that deal with grief all day long. Perfect fit, aligned with my missions, all these things. But I thought, I don't really want to get back into speaking. I'm going to throw out a number that's reasonable, but quite high that I'd never thrown out before, expecting them to say, sorry, out of our budget. Lo and behold, they said yes. So that door was open wide again. Yeah.
And that's such a perfect way that we as speakers start raising our fees. Like if somebody said yes to that number, there's other people out there who are going to say yes to that number as well.
Yeah.
So good for you. Now, you joined In-Demand Signature Speech. How did you come into my world first?
Interestingly enough, I heard you as a guest on another podcast.
Which one was that?
I can never say his last name.
Adam
Adam
Shively.
Shively, thank
Yes,
you.
that's
Thank
right.
you. And as a podcaster, I have been listening to Adam for some time. And here is this bright light lady talking about speaking, and just our backgrounds are similar, our lifestyles are similar. And I just felt so aligned to you personally that I started creeping on you and following you on social media and listening to your podcast. And all of a sudden I thought, I need to work with this lady.
Well, thank you. So you're already a speaker. Why join In-Demand Signature Speech?
Well, I think that my message obviously I'm speaking from my heart, my own experience. But the more I listened to your podcast and your teachings, I thought, I think that there is room for improvement. And I really like the idea of sharing stories. Long before, as long as I can remember, frankly, I have really been fascinated with people's stories, personal stories. And, as somebody who works in the medical field, I can go to a gazillion talks. And at the end of the conference, what will I remember? Stories.
That and bad slides.
Bad slides or terrible speakers. And I didn't want to be a terrible speaker. And I really wanted to bring more stories into my talks and presentations. So that's really what really inspired me to sign up.
Wonderful. What did you love about the program?
I loved that it was small, it was intimate. I was able to glean a lot of information, experience, not only from you, but from the other participants. And, there were a lot of side conversations going on, just like, oh gosh, I encountered that, or this is what I do. And I think without that, if I'd just had, let's say, a digital course that was self-guided, it
Mhm.
would not have been the same. There is no way I would have got that much out of it.
And just to let the audience know, Lisa was one of the participants in the 2-day intensive. So I had divided up the program to 2 different days and just to get your speech done instead of taking, the 9 weeks, which, and we had one person in there who's done the 9-week program, who's done it a couple of times actually, and she loved the 2 days.
I have to say, I was a little nervous when I knew that you had a 9-week version and then this 2-day. I thought, well, gosh, what's getting cut out? What am I losing out on? And yet, I mean, not having taken the 9-week, but I don't feel like I lost out on anything. And
No.
because it was in those 2 days and we had a bit of time in between to do some work
Mhm.
and then come back, I felt like there was such continuity, for lack of a better word. We were always working on it, so it was always fresh. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, and I split it up very intentional, and in the 9-week program, there's the break for the value section, and that can be the hardest for people but there's all these other things that I wanna stuff in my talk, and I only limit you to 3.
Mhm.
Yeah. What surprised you about the program?
Within a very short period of time, I thought, oh my gosh, I've been doing my presentations all wrong, and my stories all wrong. You taught us to kind of drop people into the climax almost, like that big emotional part, and then go back. I was doing the once upon a time, from the very beginning and probably drawing my stories out way too long. Where I did my authority piece, you know, saying who I was and my background and my book and, the work I've done was in the wrong spot. Where I did my Q&A. Who knew that it shouldn't be at the very, very, very end?
Yes. Yes, common mistakes.
Yeah.
Common mistakes, but when you understand the psychology of your buyer, of your audience, yeah, the in-demand signature speech just flows with that.
It makes so much more sense now.
Yeah, and it's so easy to now that you have the model and you've gone through it once, it's gonna be so much easier for you to make, another speech and another one. But, yeah, the 2-day does kind of force you to get it done. You don't have a week to decide on things.
Yeah, there's no waffling. You just make your decisions and you keep going. I will add another golden nugget, and I actually wrote this out on a great big card, so I have it handy, is how to take your 60-minute keynote, turn it into a 30-minute talk or a 20-minute TED Talk style presentation.
Mm.
It's so easy. It's like a recipe. So you're not constantly recreating the wheel.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole point of having a signature speech so that you can use it again and again and again, over and over. What was the hardest part? Was there a hard part?
Gosh. Well, definitely the values section. Um, I have a 5-point framework, right? And to pick not only just three, but the right three. The right three that blows, still gives a lot of value to the audience, but leaves them wanting more. So I reworked that section, I don't know, 5 times at least.
That's what happens. It's verbal art for a reason, and there's iterations. And I bet if you and I like sat down and talked like 2 years from now, the 3 that you picked, the 3 points, might be very different. They'll either evolve or you're gonna be like, "You know what? It needs to be these 3."
Yeah, I can totally see. And even when I was preparing for that big speech with the funeral symposium in May, I had been working it and practicing it. And, the more I said it out loud, the more I did it. Right. So even from when I created that talk until I delivered it, it changed probably 1,000 ways in small ways. Right.
Yes, yes. What did taking in demand's signature speech do for you internally? Like those intrinsic.
Confidence.
Same.
So much confidence. Even though I am a podcaster, even though I do facilitate groups and so on and so forth, I have the confidence to now say I'm a speaker. I have the confidence. I had a conversation with a nonprofit last night about potentially coming to speak at their group. I have the confidence now to ask the right questions, first of all,
Mhm.
right? I have the confidence around pricing, which is still not comfortable, but I have confidence having that conversation. And I just feel like I am armed with better skills, tools, and information.
Mm. I feel like the proud mama bear over here. I love that. I love all of that. Can you share with people the results of you giving that talk? Because that just made me smile from ear to ear.
Well, so back in May, I delivered this talk to the funeral symposium, and then about 6 weeks later, I was hired by a nonprofit, the a group of police chaplains. And the fellow that was organizing it was very upfront with me. He said, "We're a nonprofit. I have $300 in my budget." And I said, I looked at my calendar and I thought, July, I've got nothing on the calendar. He was such a nice man. He was so organized and just, I enjoyed talking with him. And I said, yes. But the thing that I would really like to emphasize is that I got so much more than $300 from that.
Mm.
Thanks to you, I now know how to put a proposal, a proper proposal together, where I highlighted that my speaking fee is actually 10 times more than that. But, for this agreement, I would do it for this lesser amount. That in return, I was hoping that I could use their logo on my website and a testimonial. And he wanted my slides and all of the stuff that we included in the proposal. Great. And I was able to actually recycle, for the most part, the presentation that I had done for the funeral symposium. So that part was fairly easy. But he also wanted a workshop. He wanted me for 2 hours. And so I put together an additional hour of interactive Zoom breakout room questions, which was honestly quite easy for me to do.
Yeah.
And he was raving about it. They were raving about it. And, I expected a 1 or 2 sentence testimonial. And the next day when I opened my LinkedIn, there staring me in the face was this not only raving review, but he had gone ahead and written a stellar blog article for the nation's newsletter. And at the bottom, it said, "This is Lisa's contact information. You need to look her up and you need to hire her." Not what I asked at all, not what I expected in a million years. But this is what he did for me. And I will add that everything was so seamless. He very kindly agreed to meet with me the day before because I hadn't done a Zoom presentation in a while. Wanted to make sure that the tech was all good to go. He was so gracious and kind. We got together 15 minutes day before. The check was deposited in my account 2 hours after the presentation. It was just such a good experience all around.
Oh, that is so wonderful. What's next for you now? Like,
What's
what do you,
next?
yeah, what do you see in the future? Having done in-demand signature speech, having the confidence to like call yourself a speaker, what's next?
I would like to speak more.
Mm.
And as you and I were speaking before we hit record, I really feel this pull, even though grief is my experience and where I've been professionally for 10 years, I see a pivot coming, and that
Mhm.
is towards joy. Something just, kind of, I had a little internal download, what grief has taught me about joy. I think that
Mm.
that would be something that I would really like to investigate.
I think that would be very valuable for a lot of people. Yeah, because I know personally some people who have had some grief in their lives, and it then becomes this defining moment, and the rest of their like lives. Like I literally remember a woman saying to me, felt guilty about smiling or laughing
Mhm.
because her spouse had passed away. What would you say to somebody they were like, Lisa, I'm thinking about joining in-demand signature speech. What do you think?
Just do it. I think as human beings, none of us have a job where we don't communicate. My medical job, where I work one day a week still, I work with patients all day long.
Yeah.
Communication. If you're an HR expert, communication. I think it makes us more clear, more concise, and just will make our jobs easier no matter what you do. And I think that so many coaches, consultants would benefit from taking this because it will spill over into the work you do and working with clients on every level.
Yeah. Thank you. I agree. Communication is everything, and it's something that all of us humans do. And I don't think we ever stop learning communication because we're constantly learning from the last one. I- One common question that I get a lot is, what was your favorite speech?
Hmm.
And my answer is always the next one because I'm constantly learning from this past one. What did I do well? What do I wish was done differently? And just taking all of my experience and putting it into that next event. And it doesn't matter how big that event is, how big the audience is, or how small the audience is. I'm
Love
always
that answer.
I'm just
I love
constantly evolving. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Anything else you want to share about in-demand signature speech?
just that it was a great experience. And I feel like I've made some friendships. There's another Canadian lady who I met in the group, and she and I have spoken a little bit. We've got somewhat similar stories, and we've sidebar conversations, bouncing ideas off of each other, and it's just really nice in this field. I think of being a solopreneur, it can get a little lonely, right? And nobody really understands your challenges. So to have these kinds of connections are absolutely invaluable.
Mm, thank you. Thank you. That's so true. So where can people find you, follow you, learn from you?
Well, probably the one-stop shop to find everything is Grief Support for Moms, all spelled out.com, Grief Support for Moms. And my podcast is a very similar name, which is Grief and Child Loss Support for Moms.
And all those links will be down below. Thank you so much, Lisa, for the work that you do, for taking in-demand signature speech, and for being in my world. I feel like I'm a better person, a better coach because you are in my world.
Well, right back at you. It's just such a pleasure to work with somebody so personable.
Thank you. Hey there. Are you ready to take the stage and your business to the next level? Because the doors to my in-demand signature speech program are officially open. Join now and you will get instant access to the program so you can start crafting your 3C's presentation, a talk that is captivating, compelling, and most importantly, converting. Imagine an audience that's raving about you, remembering you, and referring you long after you step off the stage. That is the power of a signature speech. And this program will help you create one that you are proud to deliver. If you want a sneak peek at what's inside the program, check out the show notes for a past episode where I pulled back the curtain and gave you a behind-the-scenes look. Your audience is waiting. Let's make your story the one that they will never forget. I'll see you inside.